So I just watched 30 hours of content this week out of the World Economic Forum's annual conference, and I think we now have confirmation that Davos, the UK, Europe, Keir Starmer, they have all officially lost control. But there is good news and also bad news that I think has come out this week, because if our elites are losing control, and I've got about 7 videos I want to show you guys today that proves that they absolutely are losing control, but if they are, I'm predicting that 2026 could be an interesting year for anybody who is holding money or saying things online that could be seen as hurty words, okay? There's a little bit of a flip side to this dichotomy. I want to start today's video with these comments from Christine Lagarde.
A big SWOT analysis and decide what do we need to do to be strong by ourselves, to be more. This is a wake-up call, a bigger one than we ever had. And I think that Europe is going to look at its strength, look at its weaknesses, do a big SWOT analysis and decide what do we need to do to be strong by ourselves, to be more independent, to rely on the internal trade that we do with each other so that we can just not ignore, but at least be prepared and have a plan B, just in case the normal relationship is not restored.
A wake-up call bigger than she could have ever imagined. Again, that's very strong language coming from the ECB's president, Christine Lagarde. Now, what was this wake-up call? Who sent the warning? This gentleman right here, he sent the warning. I want to play you guys a clip of Howard Lutnick, America's Secretary of Commerce.
Failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. We are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
That was Howard Lutnick's warning that I think put Europe, Davos, Christine Lagarde, Keir Starmer, everybody who is probably known as a globalist, they were put on warning from that speech there from Howard Lutnick. I've got another video I want to show you guys from Christine Lagarde, Donald Trump. As I said, I've got about 7 I want to show you guys. But what is the signal? If we are seeing a breakup of Davos and globalization and global cooperation, and if Davos is losing control, this isn't going to be an easy victory. Okay, yes, we did see a lot of really promising things come out of this weekend's World Economic Forum annual Davos conference, but if they are losing control, that means you're going to see them try to grip even harder. They're going to try to fight back. This is what I'm predicting, and this is why I think 2026 is going to be even more chaotic than 2025. In 2025, we had Australia, Canada, New Zealand all come out and try to launch digital IDs. We've got the UK talking about mandatory digital IDs. And I think we're going to see CBDCs, that's digital money, rolled out across the West. And it's all because the globalists have lost control. I think before I get into the monetary side of this and, what I think we need to be doing to fight back against these globalists, I want to walk you guys through a little bit more of the signal that I saw this week that kind of confirms that the globalists and Davos are really losing control. They're honestly petrified. That's what they are. And you can see it all over the internet. We can see the Europe-America standoff reaches Davos. Of course, America mentioned that they were going to take Greenland just before this World Economic Forum conference, which I think was another warning that put a lot of the globalists under pressure at this week's conference. They're all freaking out. Here's another one. Europe's new reality, the week that transatlantic ties came undone. Until, this week in particular, I think a lot of people were still under the impression that Europe and America were allies, they were friends. And, if Europe is going to be launching CBDCs and digital IDs, America's probably going to do the same. I think especially in the years 2020 to 2024, this was the consensus. And again, as someone who escaped Australia permanently in 2022, I was kind of skeptical and scared of going to America until I think it came under new leadership here in the beginning of 2025. So that was last year, because it does look as if things are changing. And like I said, if things are changing and if Davos and Europe and the globalists are losing control, my prediction is they're going to come after you even harder in the future. Now, it's not just a prediction and a speculation based on nothing. Let's listen to the IMF governor in a speech this week in Davos. I'm going to play this short video first so you guys can hear what she thinks is the coming reality in 2026.
Embrace it. I'm telling countries, accept reality. Fiat money is moving digital. The developments in crypto, both unbacked and backed, they're happening with exponential speed. So yeah, you can try to lock your country away from this. Good luck with it. So
exponential speed. Again, I'm going to show you some more videos coming out from Mark Carney and Christine Lagarde. But the narrative here I want you guys to be aware of is they're freaking out. Exponential speed is code word for we are losing control in an incredibly fast pace that we didn't see coming. We didn't expect America to start invading Venezuela and taking Greenland. We didn't expect any of this. All of this, I think, is signs that they're going to be coming after all of us very quickly and very rapidly in 2026, because I think they've been caught off guard. Again, a lot of these CBDCs and digital monies, they were supposed to be launched first it was 2021, then it was 2022, then it was 2023. And it just looks as if Europe doesn't have the technological capability to launch the CBDCs that it wants to launch. I want to talk about that more in a moment. I'm just going to play the rest of this clip. Again, the language here is very important.
So yes, I'm telling my members, understand it and then decide for yourself how we are going to operate in this world. But do not close your eyes to reality.
Do not close your eyes to reality. Again, I think the scariest quote that I want you guys to be aware of was what she said in the beginning of the clip when she mentioned what is going to be a reality. I think she's kind of, I think she could be alluding to gold and silver's parabolic rise recently when she said fiat currencies are moving digital. Again, for those who missed it.
But generally, you tell them to embrace it?
I'm telling countries, accept reality. Fiat money is moving digital.
That's CBDCs. So when she says fiat money is moving digital, what exactly does she mean? Well, she's from the IMF. She is, let me double check that. I always butcher her last name. She's the managing director at the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Now, what's really kind of interesting here is America just withdrew themselves from all of these NGOs this week during Davos. This was, again, another one of the things that I think caught Christine Lagarde so offside. Her and all of her globalist buddies were kind of shocked this week. They didn't know what to do. I don't think they were expecting America to pull the punches that it did, okay? But when she says digital money, what exactly does this mean? Well, I jumped on over here to Google, and we can see that I was kind of surprised at just how many articles and PDFs and white papers that the IMF has been writing. Again, they have this cute little virtual handbook, Central Bank Digital Currencies. And if you look back throughout history, the IMF has been writing white papers on CBDCs and digital money for years now. I found a white paper going back to 2019 on CBDCs, even before 2020 happened, which actually reminded me, I saw this as well. This was being floated this week on Twitter. So I wanted to find the original source because it was a pretty insane quote that I saw come out of the World Economic Forum's own website. We can see it's in an article titled "My Carbon, an approach for inclusive and sustainable cities." Again, a lot of people think that the things we talk about here on this channel are just conspiracy theories, but they're really not. I like to fact check these guys and go to the source, and I'm going to read directly from the World Economic Forum's very own website what they said. And again, I'll remind you, this is an old article, but it got resurfaced this week during the conference. So the World Economic Forum said there have been significant developments in the last 5 to 7 years on social, environment, and technology fronts that could help realize my carbon initiatives for shaping the future towards smart and sustainable cities. Again, we've talked a lot on this channel about the 15-minute cities and why I think it's a digital prison and why the last cities in the world that I want to be living in is places like London, France, Germany. Again, some would say we've seen, yeah, I can say that. Some would say that a lot of this destruction is failed policy. Others would say, maybe there's a little bit more than just failed policy to it. But again, just keep that in the back of your mind. I think the World Economic Forum tells us everything we need to know about what could be coming in the future. So we can see, I read that first part of the quote. But then they say, number one, so the C-19, the cerveza sickness, was the test of social responsibility. A huge number of unimaginable restrictions for public health were adopted by billions of citizens across the world. There were numerous examples globally of maintaining social distancing, wearing face diapers, and I don't even want to say that word because I like to tread lightly here on YouTube, but mass medications and acceptance of contact tracing applications for public health, which demonstrated the core of individual social responsibility. Again, look at how quickly this tone has shifted. In 2022, these globalists, they thought they were winning. They thought that they had the game in the bag. They thought that 2020 was the test. That kind of put them in the driving seat of the future. But now, as again, Christine Lagarde said, they're shocked. They don't know what to do anymore. They've essentially been forced to reconsider all of the relationships they used to have with America. The US-Europe standoff reaches Davos. I think this is here kind of the quiet part out loud. What we're beginning to see is things go against the globalists. Things are getting wild out there. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about what I think is the most important chart that explains everything we're seeing today in 2025 and 2026. Because again, a lot of people, everybody's talking about the World Economic Forum conference. I get it. You know, the whole, you will own nothing and you'll be happy. We all know that Klaus Schwab is an evil Bond villain. And again, kind of while we're on that topic, I'll remind you guys, Larry Fink is the new co-chair of the World Economic Forum. The conference we just saw this week, it's the very first one in 55 years that Klaus Schwab was not the CEO. If you kind of need more proof that they've lost control, I think the fact that they gave Klaus the big old boot, that's a little bit more signal here that not only we could be winning, but there's a bad side to this story. It means they're going to have to probably try even more drastic measures to try to regain control. That's what I'm expecting we're going to see in 2026. They're going to come, and that's because of this chart here. Now, actually, before I talk about that chart, again, I'll just remind you guys how quickly things changed in 2025. I put this deep dive email out for you guys on January 1st to start the year. And it was kind of like my 9 predictions for the year. Again, we're just talking about the first one in today's video, but I said they're coming to freeze your money. The digital prison is closing in. Because again, the speed at which all of these events were thrown at us, it caught a lot of people off guard. Most people don't even know 86 million bank accounts have been frozen in Vietnam. It's nuts. Again, the UK and Australia have spare bedroom taxes. The EU and the UK are both launching CBDCs with holding limits. France has citizenship-based taxation, unrealized capital gains taxes. Talks of those were advanced in the UK, America, Australia, Canada. They all had their different flavor and different variety. But the concept of unrealized capital gains taxes were advanced in all of these countries. And then the UK went and stripped jury trials and completely changed the election process. Again, the reason why I had this as number 1 in my email that I sent out was because this is the biggest theme of 2026. The fact that the monetary system right now is breaking, and as you can see, gold and silver is doing what it's doing right now. This is huge. I think a signal, another signal, that Davos, Europe, the globalists, they're losing control. They thought they had the game in the bag, but they have fumbled the ball. I think especially since 2025, this has been shown. Again, the best visualization that I want you guys to be aware of, that the globalists are losing control, is that the monetary system is breaking. Look at the price of gold. Look at it. That's bananas. Let's look at silver. Same thing. Silver is absolutely parabolic right now. Look, that's hyperinflation. That's a weekly chart, mind you guys. I've zoomed all the way out. That's on the weekly. Let me zoom out some more. Look at that. Does that show that the monetary system is not changing? This is why the IMF director was so confident when she said fiat currencies are going digital. Why did she say that? Why was she so convinced that we have to accept fiat currencies are going digital? Because if they don't go digital, people are just going to walk straight out of the system. They're going to go buy gold and silver because they cannot suppress the price. They're struggling to suppress the price. Their game is literally failing. And we are, to All Night Hider's comment, seeing hyperinflation. It's a great comment. Hyperinflation, the technical definition, is you see 50% inflation in a month. And if you have a look at the chart of silver, we've seen that. We've seen hyperinflation for at least 2 months. We went from $46 to $71, I believe. That's more than a 50% rise. Let's measure it. 51%. So silver went up 51% in, is that December? It'd be November. And now we're seeing, again, nearly 50, about 48% rise in December. So this silver right now is, by all definitions, hyperinflating. No, sorry. The US dollar is hyperinflating against silver. Nearly 3 months in a row. We saw about a 35% rise in what I'm guessing is November. So again, this is why these globalists are so convinced that fiat money is going digital. It's going digital because that is how they will force you into their little digital prison, and they won't let you escape. That's why they're so confidently saying the things that they're saying. They have no choice but to put you in that digital prison. Again, I want to talk a little bit more about what these guys are saying, because they are like officially saying the quiet parts out loud. But again, I think when you zoom out and you have a look at the world on a multi-thousand-year view, as we're about to, I hope that you guys are going to have a little bit more hope. Again, let's talk a little bit about solutions. This is why I'm so optimistic on Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin is the only thing that these globalists cannot control, but they can only not control your Bitcoin if you hold it in a way that you should be holding it privately, okay? This is why I'm such a big fan of pushing you guys to learn more about how you can mine Bitcoin. So you don't buy it from a centralized exchange where Chrissy might know where you have bought it. Mining Bitcoin is a great solution for that. If you guys do want to learn a little bit more about how you can mine Bitcoin by either buying the Bitcoin mining rigs yourself, or even just taking advantage of the hosted mining solutions available to you guys, highly recommend you book a call with Blockware. There's a link down below for you guys to book a free call so that you can get your wealth outside of the system, because you're going to need to get it outside of the system pretty soon, because actually I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Christine Lagarde right now is a little bit sheepish when she's asked about 1,000 euro holding limits. Take a listen to this.
This is a wake-up call, a bigger one than we ever had.
Oh, wrong clip. This one.
To make paying for things in cash over 1,000 euros illegal.
I'm not giving any interview, but thank you for trying.
No, I don't necessarily want an interview, but it's the people of Europe want to know why they can't use cash to a certain extent, because some would suggest that's about a control and the state taking charge over what people can and can't spend their money on. Surely that's a fair question.
Banknotes will always be available. We're working on this, and we will continue working on making sure that that's available for people.
But do you still believe?
End of the story. Thank
One
you.
last question: Do you still believe that people shouldn't be able to spend over £1,000 in cash for an individual purchase? It's a simple yes or no, Miss Lagarde. Christine, the WEF theme this year is Spirit of Dialogue. You're touching me, actually. It's a public path, and you're walking to me. The theme this year is a Spirit of Dialogue. You have previously been convicted of criminal charges, criminal negligence, for spending over 400 million euros of taxpayers' money. Why can't you answer a simple question? One last time, can people spend over 1,000 euros in cash for an individual purchase, yes or no?
You are convicted criminal.
So that was Christine Lagarde, head of the European Central Bank. If you like this sort of...
Silence was deafening. That's all I'm going to say. The silence was absolutely deafening. But there's a reason why Christine Lagarde won't answer the question. It's because it's in their plans. $1,000 holding limits on cash. This kind of works directly into what the IMF director was just talking about. Oh, fiat currency is definitely going digital, and you're going to have to get used to the idea. The reason why is because they're building this little digital prison that we always talk about here on the channel. Now, again, I'll remind you guys, most of you guys should be aware of what Christine Lagarde snuck through on Christmas Eve, because we did a video on this on Christmas Day. Again, if you guys are not subscribed, make sure you do. We do deep dives like this nearly every day here on the channel. But for you guys who were subscribed and tuned into our little Christmas bush bash, so to say, we covered this news. Again, look at the date of this, December 24th. On Christmas Eve, while everybody's cracking fireworks and eating Christmas turkey, completely distracted, the ECB rolled this update out. They said that they have the backing from the council members for caps and limits on digital euro holdings. So like we just saw in that interview, Europe is pushing for 1,000 euro cash limits in physical money, and then in digital money, this is the update they got for us. The council that just signed off on this bill with Christine Lagarde compromises government ministers from the 27 nations in the EU bloc. Its endorsement signals broad national alignment around the CBDC's design. That's the euro. They are absolutely coming, don't you worry. This was actually the phrase I was searching for. They will go down swinging. That's the phrase. Thank you, KBS. They are absolutely going to go down swinging. It's like when sand's falling through the cracks in your fingers. Most people like try to grab onto the sand tighter. That's what we're going to see. The sand is slipping through the fingers. The digital nomads are leaving. Again, I'll remind you of what is comfortably one of my most favorite charts. Again, it's another one that confirms we are absolutely winning. It's the 15,000 millionaires leaving the UK every single year. I'll remind you, that's more than China. It's nuts. And this isn't just a UK story. This is Europe. Everybody's leaving. They've had enough. They're gone. And I would be leaving too. Screw this. Imagine living in the EU right now while the globalists are losing control. They are going to absolutely go down swinging. This here's the chart. This is actually a slightly outdated chart, but it really puts it into perspective just how many millionaires are leaving the UK and the EU. This is another one. Wow, that's wild. Change in the share of millionaire population. Look at the other countries. Netherlands, Saudi Arabia. Again, this is what losing control looks like. When the rich people are leaving, it's game over. Again, this is why the World Economic Forum called their conference a spirit of dialogue. They know that they have lost our trust. Larry Fink said it in his keynote. We've lost trust. It's all over. It is officially game over for the globalists at the World Economic Forum. Again, don't be confused. Doesn't mean we've won. We have not won yet. We could win soon. But what I think these guys are going to be really focused on is curbing the outflow of millionaires. Again, think back to 2020. You can think of it what you will, but it was a great way to stop this interstate migration. And what I will remind you of, guys, is this trend of people leaving Western countries. This has been going on for some years now. I know there's a really good chart that I want to show you that helps us visualize the rise of people who are officially packing up and leaving their Western countries because they don't trust Chrissy anymore. They don't trust their leaders who were installed by Klaus Schwab. This is showing us the rise of freelancers. Not exactly the chart that I want to show you. I'm going to show you a better one in a moment. Okay, this is the one. Now, what I want you guys to be aware of is this chart is officially, it's an exponential chart. The growth of digital nomads is going exponential, but this trend was already accelerating pre-2020. We started going exponential before 2020. Yes, 2020 sped it up. It, for example, woke me up to the need that I needed to escape. But this isn't just a 2020 lockdown escape chart. You can see, look at it go, really start to ramp up here in 2018. So we can see there's actually, as of 2025, there's actually something like 50 million digital nomads. Now this number was at 6 in 2018, 6 million digital nomads. Think about that for a moment. The internet really started to go mainstream, let's call it in the early 2000s. So it was possible to, work remotely in the early 2000s. But look at how quickly this is accelerated. It's really starting to pick up. Now, something else, like I said, something that's picking up right now is the narrative and the pushback. Let's tune into Mark Carney, Canada's leader, because he has some interesting things to say here.
Canadians have made a choice to focus on what we can control. You are choosing to put your hard-earned dollars behind Canadian businesses and Canadian workers. Canada's new government is doing the same with our new Buy Canadian policy. We're on a mission to build big for millions of homes that will improve affordability, to major projects that will transform our economy, to the new military hardware that will protect Canadians and our sovereignty. We will build big with Canadian materials, Canadian steel, aluminum, and lumber, with Canadian technology and with Canadian workers. We can't control what other nations do. We can be our own best customer. We'll buy Canadian, we'll build Canadian. And together, we will build Canada strong.
I think the comment section there, Johnny sums that up. He is, well, I have to be careful what I say online these days, but yes, slime, scum, wef. Again, what I'm trying to allude here with all of these narratives is they've lost control. There's a reason why Mark Carney came out with this today when he did. He'd come home from the WEF and he was like, holy shit, things are changing. We're in big trouble here. This is only going to accelerate. And again, I never thought I would see it, but we even have talk of a Canadian-American conflict. And again, I think this is going to absolutely, not the right word, but I just want you guys to be aware that we're going to see more conflict. America is absolutely going to try to, let's say, strengthen its relationships with the countries in its vicinity. And that's because of this chart here that I want to brought up. I teased it a moment ago for you guys. Let me show you the chart. Let me bring it back up because it's a very important one if you do want to understand why we're seeing the globalists freak out. Because again, we always like to say the world is full of problem identifiers, but let's try to actually talk about solutions and explain why we're seeing what we're seeing today. And this chart does it. What this chart is doing with the dot next to each year is it's showing us where the economic mass for the world was. So this dot is an aggregate of the entire globe. So we can see for literally thousands of years, we can see 1000 BC, we can see 1 AD, we can see 1500 and 1800. The economic mass was between Europe and Asia. And that's because the dominant empires for those few thousands of years, they were in Europe and Asia. The Ottoman Empire, the Roman Empire, the economic mass was in this region. Now, a lot of people say that the American experiment was never supposed to happen. A lot of people say that it was just not supposed to happen, but it happened. And look at how dramatically the American experiment changed this chart. When America said, yeah, you know what, I don't want your taxes. And we saw the Declaration of Independence in 1770. We saw America become the most powerful country in the world because it embraced free markets, capitalism, property rights, when Europe wanted to do the opposite. Again, Europe hasn't changed. Europe has always wanted to raise its taxes. And of course, don't get me wrong, Europe's obviously always been a nicer place to live than other regions of the world historically. Don't get me wrong. But the American experiment was never supposed to happen. But when it did, you can see the economic majority shift. Look at how big it jumped from 1820 to 1913, when America took the global reserve currency. It was a massive change. And then what happened was we saw World War I, we saw World War II, and then after World War II, we saw globalization pick up. So I don't know whether America knew what it was doing, but by welcoming China into the global economy and looking for cheap trade, cheap labor, all these things lowered inflation. So they allowed America and the entire world to print money and devalue the money to enrich the rich. I got some charts to show you on that topic in a moment. That's not just speculation, that's reality. But there's a consequence. Economic power shifted back to the east. So we can see in the orange lines, look at how dramatically the economic center of the world is shifting back towards Europe and China. Again, this is the chart that it is all about. This is why America just recently said, actually, you know what? Screw the globalist agenda, because the globalist agenda is going to hand power from America to Europe. Think about it. Why did the European Union create its own currency in 2000? They want control. They want power again. And they're all talking about it. That's the wild thing. I have a video to show you from Ursula von der Leyen when she's directly talking about the Nixon shock in 1971. It's wild that they're actually saying the quiet parts out loud. But this is what our guy, Howard Lutnick, said. We started the live stream off with this one.
Out of your country if I get in. You're going to be...
Not that one. That's not the clip. I'm playing that clip later. Apologies, guys. I've got about 7 videos here I'm looking at.
To make a very clear point, globalization has failed the West and the United States of America.
What Lutnick is saying, he's literally talking about this chart right here. Globalization was the thing that took the economic power out of America and shifted it back to the East and back to Europe. Now, I don't even need to get conspiratorial. And again, I'm going to enter into the realm of speculation. Maybe there was some sort of agreement where they said, okay, all the West is going to do the same thing. We're going to roll out CBDCs, digital IDs, but we're shifting power back to Davos, the World Economic Forum, Europe in overall. I don't know, I'm just speculating here, and again, I will remind you, I don't trust any politician. I don't trust Javier Milei, even though he's saying a lot of really promising things. I don't trust Donald Trump, but when Donald Trump took office, something clearly changed. Even in 2016, he started putting tariffs on China, and we started the China trade war. That was 2016 when Trump got into office. What we're seeing right now, I believe, is the battle over the economic mass of the world. America's said, actually, we want to be the center of the global economy. We want to have the economic gravity, the most economic power. And again, you guys all know, I think that's super promising for anybody who loves freedom, liberty, property rights, because the WEF agenda, it is literally top-down control, totalitarianism. That's what it is all about. They want CBDCs, they want digital IDs. They're absolutely accelerating their push into rolling out CBDCs and digital IDs. I'm going to come back to the chat in a moment. Again, I'll remind you guys, we're going to be solution-oriented in today's stream. I like to think we always are here on the channel. If they want to bring CBDCs, this is why I always talk about not only just buying Bitcoin, but actually putting it into your own self-custody. This is why I always talk about hardware wallets. Again, Ledger and Trezor, they are companies who both make great Bitcoin hardware wallets. Highly recommend you not only go and buy Bitcoin, but put it in your own self-custody. That is the revolution. The revolution against these globalists is putting your Bitcoin in your own self-custody. Otherwise, it won't be your Bitcoin. Again, it's wild to me that Larry Fink holds 4% of the Bitcoin supply already. 800,000 coins. That, again, I'll be on the record, I doubt will be returned to their owners in the future. Not in self-custodied Bitcoin. Probably be a paper IOU or something. So again, this is why I always say self-custody your Bitcoin. There's links down below for Trezor and Ledgers. And again, I know this as well. I know that self-custodying your Bitcoin, I know Bitcoin's complex, it's difficult, it's technical. I understand all of that. That's also why I've partnered up with the guys over at the Bitcoin Way. They're like your Bitcoin coach if you need to get on a call and if you need help with learning how to set up a hardware wallet or run your own node or even mine Bitcoin. I'm sure there's someone at the Bitcoin Way who can help you out. Again, you can book a free 30-minute call with the link down below. And again, I want all of you guys to start preparing as if the amount of Bitcoin that you own today is worth 10, 20, 30 times more than it is right now today. Because again, we're in a monetary transition. I'm expecting things to only get more volatile. We're going to see more attacks this year. Again, I can't believe that nobody's even talking about the fact that Vietnam literally froze, 86 million bank accounts overnight because the people refused to upgrade their biometric ID to the digital ID. We're going to see this in a Western country coming to you in the not too distant future. And again, I'll remind you guys, I've already made multiple videos on that this week, that Larry Fink is coming for your savings. But he is literally saying the exact same things that Christine Lagarde and Ursula von der Leyen is saying. Larry Fink wants to channel citizen savings into businesses and infrastructure. Whatever that means. Who knows? Someone tell me what that means. But that means I wouldn't be trusting Larry Fink with my Bitcoin. I think it's as simple as that. He's definitely not someone I'd be trusting. Or the World Economic Forum, or anybody who's the co-chair of the World Economic Forum. Again, what I will continue to remind you guys of is the lockstep in narrative coming from our leaders. It literally looks as if leaders from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, they're all literally reading off the exact same script. It's kind of wild. But it's happening. And that kind of, it again goes back to who is the globalists? Who is Davos? What do they have planned for us? All I'll remind you is I think it all goes back to CBDCs, digital IDs, social credit scores. I don't have time to break down all of the 50, 100, 200-page PDFs that the International Monetary Fund has written on digital currencies. I'm going to save that for another stream. And this here's more signal. Michelle in the chat says over 100 countries have signed up to digital ID and CBDC. And you alluded to something else I'm probably going to have to talk about in a future live stream. How wild is it watching the backflip surrounding AI and energy usage? 3 years ago, in 2023, the biggest topic that the World Economic Forum was talking about was energy usage. Oh my God, we need to start scoring. We need to start scoring not only governments, but companies based on how environmentally friendly they are. This was the talk of the WEF 2 years ago. Now, they don't care anymore. Why? It's because they need the AI, because that's what's going to program the social credit score and the digital ID. They've come to this light switch moment. And they're like, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, we attacked Bitcoin because it used a lot of energy and it has all these data centers, but we need the same data centers and a shit ton of energy to power the AI to create our digital prison. Let's just roll back that narrative. That's what we've seen over the past 2 years. It's nuts. Where's the comment? I saw the comment. Maybe one day we can even abolish the central bank. That's a big hope. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we will win. I'm optimistic that we will win. I know that we will win. I'm confident that we will. You know who else is confident that we'll win? I'll play this clip here. It's a banger. Yeah.
You're going to be so proud of your country if I get in. You're going to be so proud of your president, and I don't care about that. But you are going to be so proud of your country because we're going to turn it around and we're going to start winning again. We're going to win so much. We're going to win at every level. We're going to win economically. We're going to win with the economy. We're going to win with military. We're going to win with healthcare and for our veterans. We're going to win with every single facet. We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more. We're going to win so much.
We are going to win so much, so flippin' much. Look, I'm positive. I'm optimistic. I think we are going to win. I hope all of you guys tuning into this content on the regular are optimistic like me. I'm incredibly optimistic. I think, again, I've an entire chapter of my book that's coming out shortly is the digital renaissance. I think we're seeing the digital renaissance. We're already seeing it with the charts that I showed you earlier. We are seeing the 21st century digital renaissance men say, adios, I'm out of here. I'm leaving my draconian, falling Western country. That's what the digital nomads are doing. They're already the visualization of us winning. Technology has given us an escape. We have sovereignty again. The same way, again, we saw the Renaissance in the 1600s. That was brought about by technology. We're seeing the exact same thing today. So again, I am optimistic. There's a lot of craziness going on in the world. Again, I've made a video nearly every day on the World Economic Forum and all of the speeches that happened this week. And I still haven't even scratched the surface of covering all the content. And I get it. There's a lot of noise, but there is some signal. We are winning. We are absolutely winning. That's, again, my takeaway from watching 30 hours of World Economic Forum content this week. It's been a lot of crazy things said, but we are absolutely winning. This chart shows it better than any other chart. This will be the final sign that we have won. Again, I am still skeptical of Trump in America until we see this. Until we see Bitcoin legal tender in America, I will remain cautiously optimistic. But I will say, I think the fracturing and the divide of globalization that we're seeing between America and Europe, this has bought us time. This has bought technology time to create us better tools. Hello to everyone tuning in. I saw the mustache is gone. The mustache is gone. I hope everybody wins. I'm going to try to get through as many of your comments as I can. Digital communism is forming up and they will deploy it at some point. I mean, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing digital communism. This is what the WEF, I can't say that. Let's just say, I think I saw let me bring up the tweet. I can read a tweet. That won't get me completely cancelled. If you look at all of the policies from the WEF, they're all along the same vein. Okay, I'm going to bring up something Javier Milei said at the World Economic Forum. I know he said it because I was going to make a video on it. Here it is. Got it. Feminism, diversity, inclusion, equity, open borders. I can't say that. Environmentalism, gender ideology. These are all various heads of the same beast aimed at justifying state expansion. Now, that's a direct quote from Javier Milei. I'm allowed to read quotes. And again, a lot of these narratives, where do they come out of? Where are they talked about the most? The big globalist institutions who I believe have officially lost control. I think we are getting our control back. I'm optimistic. I am bullish on the future. Again, I hope all of you guys are ready for what is going to be coming next because things are going to get more interesting. Let me remind you of a very important chart that I want all of you guys to be aware of. Now, again, let me make a caveat. I'm not predicting hyperinflation in the US dollar. But what I am predicting and have been predicting for 5 years, I've honestly been talking about the same things for, 6 years now. I wrote my first article on the economic reset that I believe we're living through back in 2020 or 2021. And nothing's changed since then. And it's been my base case that this chart is where we are today. I believe we're in incredibly and increasingly volatile times. And what you're going to see is the closer we get towards the reset, the more volatile things will be, not just in economics and inflation, but societally. We're going to see more societal volatility as people continue to opt out of the system. If I had to guess where we are on this chart, we're somewhere around 1922. And I've showed you guys the comparison of this chart versus gold many times on this channel. I think we're there. We are there. We are in the melt up phase. We are in the volatile phase. We are in the shit is about to get crazier phase, even though things have been incredibly crazy since 2020. Things are only going to get more nuts. That's the one thing I would bet on. A lot of people say the only guarantees in life are death, taxes. Death, taxes. What's the other one? There's one more. I forgot the other part of the quote. I've been yapping for 57 minutes. But death, taxes, and societal volatility is what we're going to see in the next few years. Again, while we're talking about volatility, I think something incredibly dangerous many of you guys are probably doing is you might have taken self-custody of your Bitcoin, but you might still have your Bitcoin 12 or 24 words written down on this. Do not have a backup to your Bitcoin, which is supposed to be your generational wealth, written down on paper. Please don't do that. Again, if you've taken the effort and the time to go buy a hardware wallet, at least back it up on titanium. I always tell you guys about what Stampseed has built. They've created this super sexy kit that makes backing up your Bitcoin hardware wallets super easy. Again, I've showed you the kit a few times here on the stream. You got the hammer, you've got the titanium plates, you've got everything you need to back up your Bitcoin the way it should be backed up. Look at how clean this is. These are the new kits that you can buy from Stampseed. Again, by the way, these kits are actually, dropping things everywhere. These kits are on sale right now because Stampseed is running a winter sale. Again, this sale is not going to last for too much longer. So again, go and take advantage of that while it lasts. And I believe if you also use the promo code Luke15, you can stack discounts on top of each other. So each product on the website has a different discount. Some things are 10% off, 15% off. Some things are 18% off. You stack a 15% promo code, Luke15, on top of those discounts, you can get an even bigger discount. So I highly recommend you do that. If things are going to get more volatile, you're going to want your Bitcoin backed up on this. This is titanium. That's real metal. That ain't burning. And again, while we're talking about volatility, another tool that I always remind you guys about that you need to know about is never selling your Bitcoin. So again, you can hold Bitcoin. That's great. You hold it in self-custody. You actually own it. But again, so many people are going to sell their Bitcoin far too soon, or they're going to sell it because they think they have to sell it to get some liquidity. Don't do that. You can borrow against it. I recommend Firefish. They're a great tool. I use them myself. Best place to borrow against your Bitcoin. And while we're talking about tools, I might mention another tool, and that's BitVault. BitVault have created an application that makes creating a multi-signature wallet easy. You can also create time-locked wallets in minutes with this application that BitVault's created. I love it because it makes you more sovereign. Again, it's a super useful tool that I use myself. I believe they're going to give you 10% off if you use the link down below on the offer that they are running right now. So take advantage of that. That can help you escape this system. All Night Hiders put links to all of them in the live chat for you guys. So thank All Night Hider and go and take advantage of the tools. Thank you so much to everyone who joined today. All Night Hiders literally slapped links for everything in the live chat. So thank him. Go use the tools. Learn how you can use the tools. Become self-sovereign, because these guys are coming and they're not slowing down. That is for certain. And with all that said, I'm going to thank everyone for tuning in today. If you want more content exposing the World Economic Forum's plans, I've done multiple deep dives this week If you didn't catch them, I put some links to those up on screen somewhere around there, and maybe another one over there. And with that said, I'll see you all